What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out Iran Phase 2. Ground invasion begins. Good God. This is by the legendary Kapiyami. We've watched a couple of his videos recently, actually. When was the last time? It was like a couple of days ago. Yeah, it was a couple of days ago. You know I love Kapiyami. I love Chris over at Kapiyami. I've never spoke to him. Seems like a cool guy. He was infantry, so he might be a cool guy. I was talking in previous videos when we were giving our opinions on this stuff that I didn't think we were going to get boots on the ground. I said it wouldn't surprise me, but I don't think we'll do it. But now that it's, well, by the looks of this title, it's probably going to happen. I am quite surprised, actually. I'm quite shocked that it is going to happen. It just feels surreal, doesn't it, in some sort of weird way. The start of 2026 has just been absolute mental, hasn't it? Absolutely mental. Bear in mind, it wasn't long ago before Venezuela. That incident happened. Now we've already forgot about that. Petrol prices are going up. Go to big Tesco's. Petrol prices through the roof. Fuming. Anyway, if you haven't already, there'll be a link down below to Kapiyami's channel, to this video specifically. Get yourself over there. Get yourself over. I've never spoke to Chris. Seems like a cool dude. But his channel and the work he does is phenomenal. So, head over to his channel. Give it a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really important you to do that. Before we get started, though, check out Chug. 10% off, link down below. For the best drinking vessel in the world. It is legit fantastic. It's so cool, isn't it? Like, the fact that you can buy these, like, and feel like a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Did you watch that show? Oh. Dunkin' Egg, loved it. You can take the middle part out, put this in the dishwasher, protect your wood. Also, have I got the older version here? So this is the new version, all right? This is the old version right here. Right? You can barely get 4 fingers in it, and you can't take the inside out. This one, you can get a full fist in it. And you can protect your wood. It's a better experience all around. Do you know what I mean? Also, if you haven't already, check out Morale, my new drink. Look at this. We're starting to book in at festivals here in the UK. So you're going to see me stood at a counter selling cans of Morale. It's going to be sick. There's going to be war going on, but I'm going to be at festivals selling Morale, getting outdoors, looking at fungi, talking about trees. It's going to be sick. So if you haven't already, go follow Drink Morale on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Got some fantastic content. Other than that, let's pull this up. Let's see if what intel Kapiyami here he is. Come on, Chris. Give us the loadout. What's going on?
A new ground front in the war against the Islamic Republic of Iran just opened up. Forbes, Fox, and others are now reporting that thousands of Kurdish fighters are pouring over the borders. Not now, babe. I'm monitoring the situation.
Is this the one where wasn't CIA helping these fighters? I might be wrong there.
The offensive is reportedly pushing into Iran's western borders from Iraq. Forbes reported that CIA officers have been on a clandestine, covert mission here.
Oh, mate, that guy's hanging out of his hoop. Look at him crawling up that bank.
Reported that CIA officers have been on a clandestine, covert mission here.
He's like, I just want to be home, chilling, vibing. I'm climbing up this thing, getting blown to smithereens from this wind, hanging out of his hoop.
To arm and advise these organizations over the past year. This is why we're seeing increased activity here, I think, in this sector, where the Kurds are now being bombed by Iran. However, at the same time, some other sources are claiming that this ground operation isn't happening at all. So what's really going on here? Well, today we're going to examine the ground war, the status of Iran's ballistic missiles. We're going to assess the regime's ability to stay in power, the air and naval campaign, as well as the big picture strategic goals for each side.
Damn.
Over the past year, you guys' support of the new channel has been incredible. So today I'm giving back and I'm going to donate $10,000 to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Gold Star Family Home Program, which provides mortgage-free homes to surviving spouses of fallen soldiers with young children. We couldn't do it without you guys, the viewers, and this episode's sponsor, Rare Breed, so thank you to everyone for making this happen. Now, straight in.
Okay, again, there's a link down below to this video. Go over there, go check that out, go help out the cause. Well done, Chris, for doing something like that. That's incredible.
To the ground campaign. According to reports from
It's a good
I-24,
map.
they spoke to officials from the Kurdish CPFIK, the armed groups that are based inside of Iraq. They stated that they've already begun a military offensive against Iranian regime forces. Israeli and American strikes have specifically targeted Iranian military outposts along the Iraqi border in an attempt to clear a path for ground operations.
We saw this in a video we watched the other day on how the military is specifically taking out really small checkpoints that are kind of unnecessary to take out, police checkpoints and all this other stuff in Iran. And it's so obvious that the reason they're doing this is to get lads in, to get these Kurdish troops in. And it is very like mundane outposts, but they're there. They would do damage. They would stop boots on the ground from going in. So they're obviously clearing the way, aren't they?
The war is taking place in phases that are distinguished by the type of targets they're choosing. According to ISW think tank, the first phase of the campaign suppressed.
1 second. Why is Chris's hair flat on one side? Is it just his hairstyle? I'm not taking the piss, Chris. I'm not making fun. I'm just wondering, is it like cut off from the picture?
Suppressed Iranian air defenses, and it decapitated its command and control, and it limited its ability to retaliate with ballistic missiles and drones. And now this second phase that we're entering is about knocking out the production of ballistic missiles. It's an attempt to pave a ground invasion for partner forces.
Yeah.
You can see the hits from this unclassified map that was released by the Department of War.
That map's really good as well. I feel like that was mean of me. I'm not taking the piss out of Chris. I was just wondering if it was part of the image that had changed or something. Yeah, as you can see, they're definitely hitting along that border, aren't they? It's getting quite tasty out there, isn't it? Oh, imagine being tasked to do that, lads. You're going boots on the ground in Iran. Oh, I don't know. Some lads will be up for it. They're like, let's crack on. Let's do it. I don't know. If someone said that to me when I was in the Royal Marines, I don't know how I'd feel about it. Afghan was a little bit different because I did pre-deployment training. I didn't go to Afghan, but I did pre-deployment training for 6 months. And you were up for it because lads were already there and you wanted to go support them and look after them and help each other. Ultimately, I went and did anti-piracy in the Gulf of Oman right here. But being the first in to something like this, I don't know. Feels different, doesn't it? Feels weird. Love to know what you think in the comments about that.
Department of War. This is where we're seeing intense waves of airstrikes that are knocking out a bunch of the frontier Iranian guard posts and police stations all along the border.
Oh, look at that.
Iran's border with Iraq, I should say. President Trump said that he is currently choosing those targets to clear a path for them. Because throughout history, there are very few examples of successful regime change operations without some kind of boots on the ground, whether it's partner forces or not.
Well, I think the hope is to have the Iranians step up and do it themselves. That's what's kind of been the hope. They're having these protests and all this other stuff. And I think the Americans were like, if we just bomb and let the chaos do its own thing, maybe they can sort it out themselves. But I think it's got to the point where they're getting impatient and they're like, nah, we're just going to send lads in now.
According to Kurdish officials, they began taking combat positions inside Iranian territory as early as Monday, March 2nd.
Wow.
Reports on the ground stated that Iranian forces had evacuated the border city of Marwan and are setting up defensive positions nearby. The Kurdish commander said thousands of their fighters are already deployed deep inside Iran's Zagros mountain range. It's very, very difficult terrain to fight in. These Kurdish armed factions are prepared to cooperate with U.S. and Israeli officials, they said. Now, multiple sources are now reporting that Mossad operatives are also launching attacks from deep inside Iranian soil as part of surgical, covert ground operations.
I mean, if you think that U.S. special forces aren't in there, then I think you haven't been part of the military before. You're well aware that SF lads are in there, CIA will be in Iran, all that other stuff. Of course they will. I think what the difference is seeing general military, not special forces, and it being public. That's what we're starting to see now.
Major General Tom Barr revealed hints about this, saying, quote, fighters from the Air Force special units are currently carrying out extraordinary missions that could only ignite the imagination. According to one former Mossad...
What happened to my voice then? Yeah. It's not like Scooby-Doo. Are we actually going to see American troops, though? That's the next... Are we going to see American... Are we going to see some US Marines? some armor. We're going to see some boots on the ground from US troops. That's what I'm wondering the most.
Official who spoke to The Guardian, a series of short-range munitions that were launched against the IRGC along the outposts on the border in recent days bore these hallmark distinguishing factors of Israeli intelligence missions. This episode's sponsor is Rare Breed. We partnered with them to make the $10,000 donation to Tunnel and Towers Foundation for Gold Star families. Rare Breed makes some outstanding products. We really appreciate their support and for making today's rundown possible. If you look at where these targets are, they're at the key access points that would allow the more lightly armed Kurdish groups with CIA paramilitary advisors to cross into Iran.
It looks like obviously they're going towards Tehran, which is like the capital of Iran. Is it? I'm pretty sure it's the capital of Iran. There's the two nuclear sites right there, so you can see the direction. It's obviously going into that direction, isn't it? They're obviously prioritizing that. But I think the idea of the US and Israel attacking Iran for nuclear, for their nuclear arsenal, basically trying to stop them from having nukes, I think is an argument that's kind of bypassed now. I think we can all kind of agree that it's about regime change now. I mean, I think that's like a given, right? I think we can all agree on that.
There are 9 official border crossing points between Iraq and Iran. The geography here, though, is difficult to fight in. It's mountainous terrain that makes it easy for them to surveil and look at these key access points. However, what people forget is the top strength of these Kurdish organizations. It's estimated to be about 8,000 actual fighters, with some MRAPs armed with some lightly armored Humvees, which would be a challenge to invade Iran without a large tank force. I've seen other estimates that say that their strength is in 200,000 fighters, but I don't know if that's an accurate force strength assessment.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get an exact number on boots on the ground there, are we? I have to applaud Chris's ability to get the research done about this. Like, he knows exactly who to follow on X, doesn't he? Like, he knows where to go for this information. It's super impressive that someone who I personally think is one of the best investigative journalists in this type of stuff, because that's kind of what he is, isn't he now, is on YouTube, and you can watch it for free. Like, it's not behind a paywall on BBC's website or anything like that. It's just Chris, and I think he's got 1 or 2 other people, I'm not too sure, who do this stuff with him in his, office. It's quite amazing, isn't it?
Oh, and speak of the devil, we see this new geolocated footage shows Humvees being transported to near Iran's border to support the Kurdish fighters.
Yeah.
Now, I think their role would be to open up another insurgent front, not necessarily a conventional war campaign. Now, the concern here is that oftentimes when a ground faction is involved in overthrowing a regime, like when Gaddafi was overthrown in Libya, it can spiral into chaos and into civil war. However, it appears that Israel and the United States would prefer that outcome of a chaotic outcome to the Islamic Republic of Iran staying in power.
Yeah.
The US
100 million%, I think that's the case. I think this is starting to become more and more obvious as well, isn't it? Like, this is becoming the obvious thing.
Has worked with these Kurdish groups since before the 2003 invasion of Iraq. It's become a long-running meme, in fact, at this point, about how the US often abandons their Kurdish allies, like in Syria and in Iraq, after encouraging them to help and to fight them. And then at the last minute, they kind of just disappear. So we'll have to keep an eye on if that happens again. Iran's ballistic missile fire in the past day has slowed down to a crawl. This is the big, huge news here, because according to the Pentagon, joint strikes have been able to decrease Iran's ballistic missile fire by about 90%.
Woo!
Most of that happened in just the last day. Iran's one-way attack drones have decreased by 73% from the...
I think it's easy to say that there's a couple things. There's a couple of reasons for that happening. Firstly, a lot of these outposts that send these missiles are getting bombed. So the facilities have gone. And secondly, I think they're running out of the munition. I think they're running out of this stuff. So it's a mix of both, and that's why it's decreased by 90%. Good God.
Opening days. Take a look at these estimates here. It shows it much better. All types of munitions are down and degraded across the board, while munitions fired by the US and Israel are only increasing.
Yeah.
Here it is on a graph that shows it better again. Is this a purposeful strategy on the IRGC and Iran's part to slow fire, to protract the war? Possibly. Are they holding back and saving missiles? It's unlikely.
No.
Evidence that this is happening, this slowdown, is because of 400 ballistic missile mobile launch trucks that have been destroyed in the past 5 days.
Didn't they say that they already destroyed over 100 of them? But I mean, it's the 8th, Sunday the 8th now. Like, wouldn't be surprised if the majority of them have gone as well.
Just like how every single piece of military equipment that is destroyed in the war in Ukraine is tracked, monitored, tagged, and categorized, the same is true in this conflict. Estimates from Israeli officials are that 50% of them have been destroyed so far. And this footage shows why that's the case. There's nowhere to hide. Even equipment in overhead hangars gets destroyed now.
Considering it is literally the opposite side of the world, it just goes to show how the US's logistics, how insane they are. Now, I get it. They're part of NATO, and they do have allies with European countries, but there's a bit of hesitance there with European countries, isn't there? And so, yeah, it's very, very impressive considering how far away it is that the US is able to do this.
This has been the US military's greatest success in the campaign so far. It's like a high-stakes game of rock, paper, scissors. The US is deploying paper with air power to cover everything, and Iran is throwing down rock to try to smash everything with ballistic missiles. I forget which one of those went. Meanwhile, Iran's greatest success so far has been the regime's ability to stay in power, which has surprised the United States. At first, people thought Russia and China weren't coming to the defense of Iran, but now it appears like they might be stepping in. Russia is sending satellite targeting information to Iran, sending them all the location of U.S. warships and equipment in the region, just like the U.S. has been doing, sending target.
That's a dangerous thing, especially with someone like Trump in power, who can very easily take that as an act of aggression towards the US and therefore start fighting against Russia as well. This could go downhill very, very quick, couldn't it?
Data to Ukrainian troops against Russia for the past few years. And China is now apparently mulling over deciding if they're going to send additional ballistic missile parts. Now let's take a look at the big picture. Let's zoom out here, because this war is a race, I think. The IRGC in Iran is racing to turn the war into a global economic catastrophe, right? Iran's most important weapon is the global oil market. They cannot hope to shoot down all the American-Israeli jets. They cannot hope to sink all the U.S. warships. What they can hope to do, from Iran's perspective, is create a massive oil shock. This is Iran's biggest leverage, to force the Gulf countries to pressure the United States and Israel to stop the war. Currently, tanker traffic is down 90% in the Strait of Hormuz, and this is where 35% of the fertilizer needed for global food production goes through. This strategy explains clearly why you're seeing Iran now target 13 of the countries in the region that haven't even targeted them.
It does also make me wonder if this is a second kind of motive for America and Israel. Like, if they can control this strait, then they get more money, right? I know it might be a bit conspiracy theory, get your tinfoil hat out, but if there's a regime change that's very pro-Israel, pro-American, right? And they allow US bases along the strait. There you go. Things change, don't they, dramatically?
It's why they're hitting the civilian airports. It's why Iran's targeting luxury hotels. It's why they're hitting oil infrastructure. It's why they're targeting commercial vessels and data centers. Because they can't hope to win militarily. So instead, their strategy is to try to win by causing economic chaos. The risk to this strategy, though, the downside to this strategy for the IRGC, is it gets the whole region to align against Iran because they're getting hit by them with missiles. On the other side, America is racing to dismantle Iran's ballistic missiles and their navy fast enough to prevent any kind of sustained, protracted disruption to the oil market. We'll know who won this race in about 2 or 3 months from now if the oil market is still extremely high and the Strait of Hormuz is still unpassable. That would be no bueno. I think evidence of this strategy by Iran is that we see here the majority of missiles fired by Iran were at the UAE, not Israel or US military targets. Why? Because Dubai is the largest trade hub in the Middle East. Jebel Ali Airport is one of the busiest ports on Earth, and Dubai International Airport is the world's busiest. So Iranian strikes are designed to cause insurance spikes and inflict the maximum amount of damage in terms of global trade disruption. This is Iran's strategy. Raising the cost of war and trying to spread instability across the region, as we'll see when we zoom out. And
I think that's another reason as why the US might be like, we want a regime that we want. that's allied with them. Because it's such a vital space, isn't it? Such a vital area.
All around Iran's other borders, though, it's becoming also more chaotic. Azerbaijan called up military forces to their border with Iran. The war has further widened and escalated. Iran fired one-way attack munitions into Azerbaijan. Video evidence and footage was released of the attack. It was recorded by people on the ground. So why is Iran attacking Azerbaijan? It could be to create chaos. It could be to hit regional oil pipelines that reach all the way into Israel. That would cause economic fallout. Or it could be a rogue unit in Iran making up their own orders because Iran's leadership is in absolute shambles right now and they're not taking orders from anyone at the top. Or it could be an accident. There are also reports of U.S. forces intercepting a ballistic missile that was headed into Turkish airspace or was already over Turkish airspace. Now, Iran's armed forces denied responsibility for these attacks, which so far is a first in this conflict. They blamed Israel for the attack, though, which is not a first in the conflict. Another front also opened up where separatist groups inside Pakistan are now fighting on Iran's southeast border. The way America and Israeli Air Force blew up the ballistic missiles is a fascinating part of the air campaign, though. It's through a new type of warfare that has never been put into wide-scale action before. It's the new sensor-shooter model. There are many networked warfare graphs out there that were just theory before this war that are actually now being put into practice. Look at all these. We thought these were just wishful thinking, but fire is now distributed across the entire shared network. What all those buzzwords mean is that
it is interesting to see the full might of, well, it's not even the full might of US power, is it really? Not really. But it is interesting to see, after what has been quite a while since the peak of Afghanistan, to see the US in a full-fledged kind of fight. But it hasn't even reached full power yet. It's that Dragon Ball Z meme.
Satellites overhead instantly identify the location of ballistic missile launch sites by Iran. They detect them from its extremely high heat signature. Those coordinates are then passed instantly to the entire fighter fleet, the whole network of 400 combat aircraft. The closest F-35 is then tasked with shooting the launcher. Fires off an air-to-ground missile, destroying it without ever having to even see or detect it. Then the F-35 detects another launcher and passes that targeting data to another friendly aircraft or naval assets with Tomahawk cruise missiles. That's just wild to see in practice.
It's all data.
After it being theory for so long. Here we see new footage of American B-52 bombers taking off to conduct missions over Iran. But these are armed with long-range standoff missiles, which Tyler Rodgeway from the War Zone suggested that means that America doesn't have full air supremacy yet. According to General Dan Kane, America has hit over 2,000 targets inside of Iran and has gained localized air superiority across the southern flank of Iran, and that they're now starting to slowly chip away and expand inland, striking progressively deeper.
Interesting. So I was told by people that they have full air superiority, and maybe this is just like cautionary more than anything, but it is interesting that they're taking the time with it and they're being very precise without wanting to lose anything.
Drones overhead are creating what you could think of as like a 24/7 CCTV surveillance feed, real-time surveillance of whenever Iran tries to launch a missile. Or as the official White House account put it, a Call of Duty call streak is called in. When we look at launching from underground silos, it takes far longer to fire those type of missiles. U.S. forces, the type of silos that we have here in America, I believe it takes about 24 hours to reload one of those underground missile silos and fire another volley. The rate of fire for mobile launchers is much faster. So from firing these protected sites, it's much slower. But troops continue to face a determined and dangerous enemy inside of Iran anyway. For Iran's part, they've inflicted some serious significant damage as well. Confirmed damage to U.S. military equipment are a few radar stations, including the ANS FPS-132, we believe, which is a strategic level asset worth billions of dollars.
Interesting.
These are the systems that are responsible for tracking incoming ballistic missiles, and they've been hit. The IRGC in Iran is trying to disrupt the U.S. military's ability to communicate and coordinate. ISW reported that the strikes damaged several buildings, including aircraft shelters and equipment warehouses in Kuwait. Open source intel on X said, quote, satellite images show Iranian attacks on U.S. Ali al-Salim Air Base in Kuwait impacted over 20 hits. A Patriot air defense system, hangars, radars, launchers, and other military buildings were likely hit. On March 5th, ballistic missiles were still hitting American military bases in Bahrain and around the Gulf. Iran is accomplishing the most damage with its hitting of soft targets, though, civilian assets, like oil tankers. If you just look at the maritime traffic platform here, around 200 oil tankers remained at anchor in open waters.
It just seems like it's a case of Iran can't fight back, therefore blow everything up. Blow everything up so everyone stays away from us. But it's just not going to work. Like that, it's a strategy that just causes a lot of enemy. It's because they've got the back up against the wall. There's nowhere else to go, and this is all they can do. The truth is, this is more of an incentive for certain countries like America and Israel to take the country and implement a regime that is pro-American and Israel. That this is literally even more of a reason they're making it even worse for themselves. I can't see this taking it. I don't think American troops will go boots on the ground. I really don't. I think oh God, I'm probably wrong. I can't see this lasting much longer. I really can. Iran doesn't have the capabilities for this to carry on much longer. Surely this is, what is it? It's the 8th of March right now. Surely this doesn't last longer than the end of March. Surely not. Not from the stats that we're looking at and stuff. Are we going to have a new regime by the end of March, beginning of April?
What is more clear is that what is happening at sea, though, because a U.S. Navy attack submarine attacked an Iranian warship that was leaving port from a joint Indian training exercise.
Oh, yeah.
So they were chilling. They thought they were just coming back from this training exercise. And then the Iranian naval vessel, the IRS Dina, that had 130 sailors aboard, operating far from home in the waters of Sri Lanka. This massive vessel, about 1,500 tons, had multiple weapon systems on it, torpedoes, anti-ship missiles, and cannons on board. The American submarine was just waiting for them. You're looking at unclassified released combat footage of the sinking here. The U.S. attack submarine launched the Navy's primary heavyweight torpedo, the Mark 48. The Mark 48 is designed specifically to destroy large warships. It homes in using sonar. It could chase targets at speeds of up to 50 knots, which is nearly twice as fast as the Iranian Dina could go.
Oh, wow. So it explodes underneath it. Whoa.
Can't go any speed now, but in the final seconds, the torpedo typically detonates beneath the ship, not against the hull like you might think. That detonation uses a proximity magnetic fuse. The torpedo senses the ship's metal hull overhead and explodes directly underneath. So instead of punching a hole through it, the blast creates a massive gas bubble that lifts the ship upward. That cavity then collapses, and this sudden loss of support literally snaps a ship's keel in half. What makes the incident notable...
Oh my God! Oh my God, that is brutal! Good God!
...is the range. It demonstrates that U.S. subs, and really any sub, can silently track and destroy vessels thousands of miles away, and reinforcing America's undersea dominance across the Indian Ocean.
Wow.
It's also a reminder how vulnerable surface ships can be to underwater threats. CENTCOM says they've struck or sunk more than 20 Iranian ships so far. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on Thursday confirmed all this, saying the U.S. will bitterly regret it, and that the U.S. has perpetrated an atrocity at sea 2,000 miles away from Iran's shores, saying, "Mark my words, the U.S. will come to bitterly regret the precedent it has set." But that...
I mean, how? What's Iran going to do at this point? Country's gone. It's done for.
That wasn't the end of the first, because that was the first torpedo strike since World War II, and now this is the first F-35 stealth fighter jet recorded kill in history. This footage was released by Israel of the engagement. The shootdown of a piloted aircraft was announced by the Israeli Defense Forces on March 4th, 2026. Footage circulated online. The Israeli F-35 Adir, piloted by one of their most junior fighter pilots reportedly, got into a dogfight with an Iranian Air Force Yak-130. This is a Russian-made aircraft that is used as a reconnaissance and light attack aircraft. It's one of the most advanced fighters that Iran has in its inventory, and it's meant to mimic the capabilities of 4th and 5th generation fighters. Even outdated aircraft can be a serious threat for fighters in the sky. The Yak-130 was carrying 3,000 kilograms or 6,000 pounds of ordnance on 9 hardpoints under its wings. With its digital glass cockpit, it's able to fire guided air-to-air missiles. We hear the Israeli Air Force Chief Major General Tamar Bar say over the radio, quote, "The historic interception over the skies of Tehran is an expression of the Air Force's power and your personal determination. The next mission is already waiting for you." you. The Yak is far outclassed by the F-35.
I mean, it's an F-35, isn't it? It's basically a spaceship. It's basically a UFO. That's insane that we've just seen that footage for the first time ever. I'm like speechless. Wow.
Slower at subsonic speeds and has light radar capabilities in comparison. Carries the R-73 short-range missiles. The F-35 detected the Yak-130 first with its APG-81 radar and its passive sensors. An official said that the dogfight was over quickly in just a few seconds. A commander, Brigadier General Dalid of the Naval Air Base, spoke to reporters and said this about the engagement: "We identified the plane, locked on it, and launched a missile. The Iranian plane endangered our aircraft. It could have hit our plane, so we shot it down. The Yak-130 never saw it coming because the F-35 stealth jet reduced its detection range. At this stage, the missile is flying about Mach 4 and guiding itself. That's 4 times the speed."
A Mach 4? Holy! Imagine that coming out of absolute nowhere. Mach 4? Holy shit. The pilot probably didn't even know what happened. Probably died without... The pilot probably died and didn't even know it died. The pilot's probably gone and didn't even know what happened. Mach 4. Good God.
The max speed of the Yak-130. Typically, detonation is about 3 to 10 meters from the aircraft, and it sends out 40 pounds of high explosives with a fragmentation sleeve. They slice through the aircraft like a shotgun blast. The Israeli Air Base commander said that the F-35 fired the missiles while it was in midst of targeting Iranian regime sites in Tehran. He said the F-35 knows how to do this very quickly and accurately.
Wow.
So they were carrying a mix of bombs and air-to-air missiles. The Israeli Air Base commander said, quote, "The Iranian Air Force understands that it is inferior and under significant threat. Despite this, it is trying with its remaining capabilities to carry out missions that will disrupt us."
Of course they are, but that's not going to last long, especially when you see shit like this. Imagine being an Iranian pilot and being told, all right, you got to go do this. And you know there's F-35s just haunting the sky. I mean, you basically you've got a death wish. Well, like, why would you even do it? You'd be like, I'm not doing that. We're going to die. Like, obviously.
The situation that led to the shootdown. The Air Base commander said, "We encounter the enemy during our sorties in Iran, but it is a weak enemy."
Wow.
The over 400 American and Israeli fighter jets in the sky have faced off against a large Iranian Air Force, although it's questionable how many are operational. We know that before the 2026 war, the Islamic Republic of Iran had relatively large but extremely aging fleet. Much of it was from the 1970s U.S. arms sale before the 1979 revolution. So the total numbers vary depending on what you want to count as active, but most defense databases put the total Iranian Air Force inventory at around 400 aircraft, with roughly 150 operational combat aircraft and 30,000 Air Force personnel. They had 63 F-4 Phantoms and 41 of the F-14 Tomcats, along with 35 F-5s and 30 MiG-29s, along with 24 of the Su-24s and Su-22s. The IDF had just finished bombing Iranian fighters as they were trying to take off, apparently. So in Iran,
Couldn't even get off the ground. They couldn't even get off the ground. What?
Iranian F-4 and F-5 were hit while they were on the runway trying to take off. The shootdown of the Iranian manned tactical jets follows 2 others that occurred at the hands of the Qatari Air Force, which swatted away a pair of Su-24 fencers out of the sky. The Qatari Air Force, according to Osanet Defender, used an F-15QA and shot down the pair, and they were detected crossing the Persian Gulf at low altitudes in the direction of Qatar, with officials telling CNN that the Su-24s came within 2 minutes of launching strikes on U.S. forces at the Al Udeid Air Base.
Wow.
Watching the sky
Within 2 minutes and they were shot down. It's crazy, isn't it, how many situations where people have become so close to death. Like, so close, and they've escaped through quick decision making. Like, imagine if they reached through and actually caused havoc. We could have quite a large death toll on our hand. It's insane how close that is.
Is eerie to see, though. The airspace closures over Sudan and Africa, over Ukraine and Eastern Europe, and now over the Middle East. If war were to happen in the Pacific, this is what the skies would look like everywhere, just empty. No air travel. Something I've never seen in my life. This much disruptions. The billion-dollar question, though, that everyone is asking is whether or not Iran will be able to continue firing ballistic missiles and drones long enough to drain the U.S. and its allies of interceptors. Tactical Sustainment on Instagram did a really good assessment, I think. I enjoy doing average infantryman math myself, and that's what this is. It's basic back-of-the-napkin reverse calculation. It shows the known number, which is reported that 282 ballistic missiles were intercepted so far. Okay. So if we assume, this is what this account did, they assumed 70 were U.S. engaged threats, 80 were estimated to be Patriot interceptors that were fired. So they estimated a 3,000 U.S. Patriot inventory. Production capacity is believed to be between 300 and 620 Patriot missile interceptors produced per year. So we're talking about less than 30% of 1 year's production run. The question is, though, will the amount of interceptors, the rate that they're fired, increase or decrease over the coming days?
Well, the thing with the American industrial complex is it will ramp up if it's needed. It's its own beast in itself. And so I just feel like Iran, the pissing in the wind. There's nothing's going to work at this point. They're just going to get depleted very, very quickly. I'd love to know in the comments how long you think this is going to last. And do you think we'll see American boots on the ground? If the regime change doesn't happen by the end of March, I think we'll see boots on the ground, US troop boots on the ground. A lot of people are disagreeing with me on that, but I feel like there's been so many times where we've thought it's not going to happen and then something happens.
If it stays the same, it will eat into the overall stockpiles larger. If not, it's a negligible amount. Also, these numbers are estimates. Zelensky claimed it was as high as 800 Patriot missiles that were fired. So these numbers are uncertain. To learn more, watch this video here on why U.S. Special Forces are launching ground raids in Ecuador now and how it's connected to this bigger picture. Or check out this playlist here on firearms. I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy, ending transmission. A new ground...
Great video by Chris, as always, by over at Cappy Army. You've got to go and follow their stuff because they're really doing incredible work. This war is just... It's hard to explain, isn't it? Because you watch stuff like the Ukraine-Russia war, and you're seeing things that have never happened before, and it's taking forever, and it's just unprecedented. And then you see something like this, and you're like, oh my God, like there's things happening here that we've never seen before. Iran's done for. If you think otherwise, you're in denial. There's going to be a regime change, and they're going to be pro-Israel, pro-American. And if you don't agree with that, then I think you're in denial, and I think this is going to happen. It's got to. This will all be done by the end of April. It's got to be. I'd love to know what you think in the comment section down below. Again, go follow Cappy Army, fantastic YouTube channel. Check out Chug, 10% off link down below. Check out Morale if you haven't already. What do you think? I want to know in the comments. I love reading the comments, so go and do that. Until next time, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.